Hey y'all, hope you're doing well today. So in today's message, we're going to be talking about how experience in our life is the ultimate teacher, right? And how we can study and research all we want, and it's not a bad thing because I feel like it helps us to frame our experiences and to gain context and therefore deeper understanding in the end. But ultimately, it's experience in life that is our greatest teacher, right? And so let's move forward. And again, I hope you're doing well today. And I've got my Christmas lights going, and this is my third time starting the video because sometimes it's like information overload. I'm doing this because it feels like download sometimes, when you're just in that state of flow. I don't know exactly how all this works, but it's like when your mind is flooded, it's like you ask for inspiration and you get it, but you get like a double helping of it. And so you wind up just kind of all over the place in your mind, and then you're looking around and you're like, oh, I've got the Christmas light horns again going on and everything. So I'm hoping this time that I'm starting the video is actually going to be a success. So let's see. All right. So the theme that we're going to kind of be keeping in the back of our minds as we go through these different concepts is the theme of the secret path. The secret path. And, ultimately, as we go through just so much chaos in life, and we experience so many just random things that make really strong impressions on us, toxic relationships and just jarring experiences that we go through, all this stuff, it's you reach a place of peace when you come to an understanding that everything serves a purpose. It's hard for me to make statements that feel like they're just very certain, or just like 100% true, because I try to stay open-minded, and I think that approaching learning from a place of humility is good. And that includes assessing, your perspective at all times in this reality, just understanding that, when you reach a new level of understanding and there's been another layer of the veil, lifted, or the fog, whatever, because it feels like the truth is buried under all these layers, doesn't it? It's just like once you reach this new stage of awareness, or however you want to frame it, it's easy for the ego to kind of like, raise its head and just kind of peek out and be like, oh, now you got it. Now you got it all figured out, And the truth is, it's as soon as you think you've got there, then it's like, oh, there's more to learn. There's always more to learn. And so, at some point, there's a piece that happens. This is in my experience, where you accept your limitations with regards to wisdom, right? The attainment of wisdom. And in so doing, it's a part of developing this extreme reverence for God, or the higher power, however you want to call this in your belief system, right? And so essentially what I'm saying is all these bad experiences, these toxic entanglements, or whatever you want to call them, it's like they serve to administer an ego death, and they put us on the spiritual path, which is why a lot of people have shared this from their experiences as well, and it's been true of mine. It's like you're brought into this spiritual walk, and it was kind of like by accident. And if you thought I'm sorry, there's a Jeep pulling up next to me, and it's gorgeous. Of course, I think all Jeeps are gorgeous. And so they're all beautiful, but it's like they're like Skittles. I'd take one in every color, but anyway. So, but it's like you're put on the spiritual path, and it wasn't intentional. It just kind of happened. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it just happens. And you know, it's interesting to experience. You may have thought that you were a spiritual person to begin with, and then when this happens, it's like you're just brought into this new level of awareness that just amplifies that. And then I've heard from people who were totally agnostic, I think is the right word, atheist, whatnot. They didn't have a spiritual practice whatsoever or belief system at all. And then these experiences, you know, in the process of the ego death, which is just one lens, one way to frame it, it brought them into the world of spirituality. So this path is really incredible. And, you know, you can't explain it to people. They have to experience it firsthand. It's just the way it is. And so, with that being said, this video is going to be talking about that. And my next video will as well, a little bit. But it's going to have a little bit different flavor to it. So, I hope you enjoy both. So, you know, I wanted to share with you all, I've been away for a few days, for a good reason, for some family time, and it's been great, and I really enjoyed it. I've also done a lot of processing, just you know, my own life and experiences, and I feel like I've reached a new level of awareness. And sometimes that can be kind of destabilizing. Sometimes it's kind of like you know, you reach this new plateau, or the pinnacle, or the mountaintop, or however you want to say it, and it's sort of like you have to get your balance again. And that's kind of what I've been going through. So but I did also have some time with my family, which was great. And that being said, I'd like your opinion on this. So sometimes I'll journal, and I'll even go so far as to make a video on a topic, and I'll not be sure about it. For whatever reason, it's like it doesn't feel like a fully baked idea or whatever it is, but yet there's value in it. There's value in the message, and I'm not sure if these kind of videos should just be totally disregarded and not posted, or if I should make a playlist. And I was like, okay, well, if I made a playlist, I could make it unlisted, but give you all the link so that if you just wanted more content from my channel, you would have access to it, but you would know that these are kind of like kind of videos, in my opinion. So I was like, I guess I could call the playlist you know, like I don't know. So I love your opinion on that. But anyway, let's move forward. You know, as far as wisdom goes, it's like our lives are peppered with so many facts, quote unquote, so much data out there, and just so much stuff that we just have to wade through, you know. And it's no wonder that it takes a lifetime to take this journey, to walk this path. It is a lifelong thing, and which is why there's layers, you know. And so, you know, let me share this with you all. One of my favorite Bible verses, which is 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 18 through 19. It says, if any man among you seemeth wise, let him become a fool, that he may be wise, right? When you read that kind of stuff, I wonder if you're like me. It's like in the beginning, the first, you know, few times you hear it, or first 20 or 30, whatever times you hear it, it kind of comes off, I don't know if the right word is superficial, or just kind of flat, or what, but it's kind of like it's just maybe latent, or I don't know what the term is, but what we don't realize is it's full of potential that isn't fully tapped into or accessed until you experience something in life, and then suddenly you have this context that you look back on these quotes of wisdom, or these stories, even fairy tales, folklore, myth, parables in the Bible, whatever it is, and then suddenly it's like it takes that hindsight as the key to be able to access it, and it's like, because you're like, that's exactly what I experienced, you know. And so it's sort of like these beautiful gems of wisdom that are always there, but they're largely ignored or overlooked, or even if someone's trying to make sense of them, they're not understood. They're veiled until the right time, which means God is always in control. Always in control. See, you can't force something that's a part of His design to be any different than what it is. And so, and that being said, I'm working really hard on getting to the point in my messages. I know that I ramble, and I hope that maybe for you guys, if you're actually coming back to my channel, I hope that you just enjoy this style of it being casual, just like, you know, a couple friends sitting down and having coffee, which my coffee was not good today. I actually had to go and get water instead because it was, I don't know what happened, if they changed the flavoring they put it in or what. You know, y'all know I love my salted caramel iced latte, but the last 2 times I got it, it's been off. So it's one of those things where it's like I could drink it, but the fact that I can tell it's off, I can taste it, you know, I don't know if something's wrong, if it might make me sick, you know. So I'm like, yeah, I want to stay as healthy as possible. So anyway, there's another tangent for you. But truthfully, I'm in a season of growth, and so my mind really is like this right now. It just is. It's whirling and swirling, and yet at the same time, it's like this divine paradox of the most clarity I've ever had in my life. It's sort of like I have this clarity that I want so bad to be able to condense down into these bullet points for you all, but I just haven't figured out how to do that yet. But I have reached this new level of awareness, and it's been incredible. And every time I feel like you reach a new stage of growth and you go through the season of it, it humbles you. It really does. And I say that because it's like a mirror that that's held up to you, that illuminates all the supposed wisdom that you held in such high regard for so long. And it's like, what happens is you get a taste every time at each new stage. You get a taste of the real thing, the real wisdom, and you're like, oh, you know. And so it's beautiful, and it's incredible too. So it is spiritual, and it's personal, and it adds to your pearls too, that you don't want to cast before the swine, because, you know, if you, like, for example, if you have a YouTube channel, you don't know who's watching you. And so I know you know who several of you are, and I'm so honored that you care enough to come back and listen, and I just want you to know that. But on the flip side, you never know, like, who, and it doesn't even take a YouTube channel, it could just be in your life. You don't really know who's watching you, which is why, you know, it's important. It's not just for your own personal growth, but other people, you know, witness how you live your life too, and you can be shine the light for them in that way, just through your actions, see. So but it's a personal thing, and we know that there are wolves in sheep's clothing. So I just caution you, as you're going down your path, you know, I think it's good to have a testimony and to share things, but generalization is good, you know, for a lot of reasons. But I think definitely we should consider, you know, our pearls and protecting those. There is value in silence for a lot of reasons, not just protection, but I have found for processing too. It's almost like these grand things that are so amazing that you experience that you can't fit into language. It's sort of like when you try to do that, well, now you've restricted them, not just in sharing them with others, but also within your own mind. Now they get logged more simplistically. Does that make sense? It's like it kind of takes away this expansive numinous element. It kind of just whittles them down to, you know, less than what they really are. So I'm practicing at this stage in my walk keeping a little bit more to myself about my experience. I just encourage you to do the same. So, you know, and it's hard. It's hard because when you come out of a controlling environment, when you're free of you know, a narcissist, for example, or whatever it was, it is liberating to be able to speak freely, you know, without being gaslit or intentionally confused, you know, being made to be confused, or without you being shamed or patronized or whatever it is, you know. And so back to the concept of wisdom and how it comes through experience. It's like, I'm learning that, you know, you could try to research and read and all this stuff to gain your wisdom, but consider framing it this way. This is my new perspective. In my opinion, wisdom is looking more and more like a result of something, a symptom even, of contrasting or opposing or polarizing experiences. It's kind of like, can you fully know something without context? It's like living your life gives you context. Okay? So, yeah, it's almost like all those quotes and everything are just, you know, they're really not that useful to us. Just hearing them, it's like you have to experience it, right? And that's why this is like another, you know, piece of the puzzle where it's like, oh, okay, now I understand why things don't always make sense in the present. Like in the moment, sometimes, very often in my experience, things just don't make sense right in the moment. You may, you know, be surprised by something, or something may register with you as, you know, impactful in some way, good or bad, but it may not fully make sense, and it just kind of is baking back here in the back of your mind. You're like mulling it over, you know, or marinating in it, or however you want to say it, but it's not clicking fully. And so in the future, though, we start to understand that the more and more experiences we have, they serve to gift us with this frame of reference to look back on things in hindsight, right? And it just gifts us with another layer of understanding in that way. That's the path. That's how it works, you know, in my experience. So, but there's value, because now we understand. It's kind of like we always knew that there was value in all of this recorded wisdom throughout history, you know, folklore, fairy tale, nursery rhymes, song, whatever it is. You know, and nowadays it's in books and movies and things like that, right? But it's like it becomes useful to us at some point in our life. And a lot of times it's down the road. Just like that book I shared with y'all, Women Who Run with the Wolves. I read it like 20 years ago, between 15 and 20 years ago. And it was cool, but it just kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me. But some of it stuck with me. And then when I reread it, it was like hindsight wisdom. So I think it's cool to kind of think of these stories like our ancestors, giving us like stepping stones to place in the river as we make our way across the river. You know, it's like we still have to cross the river, see, but they've already done it. And so they gift us with these stepping stones to use along the way. And we'll know when we get to a certain part which stone we need to pull out of the bag and put down to walk across. You see what I'm saying? I like metaphor. I don't know. It kind of helps me process. But it all makes sense in hindsight, in other words, you know, which is why, again, there's that phrase, hindsight is 20/20, right? So, but like I said, it's a beautiful numinous process, because at some point we realize that there truly is something or someone bigger that's in control, right? Which reminds me of the verse in the Bible that says, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I don't think it's fear like, well, I do. I think it's both fear, like being afraid because of the his omnipotence, right? The power that's unlimited. That's big deal. But also I think it's fear as in reverence, like reverent fear. See, like respect for. Kind of like when they teach you, like, you know, with you know, weapons and stuff. You know, it's healthy to have a certain level of reverent fear. Don't be so afraid that you're shaking you can't even use it, is what it's intended for, but have this level of respect that's a reverent kind of fear, that you handle it appropriately and very cautiously. Don't ever get too comfortable, kind of like that. That's a really poor example, poor analogy, because you can't really equate what I'm talking about with regards to, God to anything else. It's just so set apart, you know what I mean? But yeah, so the rest of that verse, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The rest is pretty incredible, it says. And the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. That's something that is just now clicking with me on a deeper level. Okay? And we realize in the process how much we normalize an everyday atmosphere of pressure. So once you truly come to believe in a greater power, not metaphorically, not symbolically, but actually, it becomes your new lens, okay, that you interpret everything from, and it's a perspective like no other. That's what I mean when I say, we have normalized so much, and there are all these mental obstacles in our way, right? And it just, it's sad to realize that, our bodies are so attuned to our mind, and when our mind is under so much pressure, our body can respond, right? Through all kind of bad manifestations. Stress can kill you. That's what I'm saying. Stress can kill you, right? But yet the paradox is it takes that certain level of pressure to form the diamond, to refine you spiritually, alchemically, you might say, right? So it's kind of like useful in that way. So but we do deep dives like what we do on my channel, because how can you feel totally sure of yourself again after going through psychological abuse, right? And once you realize how easy it is for you to be deceived. And so we want to get to a place where we truly are sure of ourselves again, okay? But the gift is we learn that we're not alone. We don't have to be sure of ourselves in an egoic way. We can be sure of ourselves in now I understand what my spiritual heritage is way. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I think it's honorable to want our discernment to become better. And so let's shift now. This is a good place to shift away from the spiritual into the logical, okay? Just for a minute, and then we'll wrap up. So I read this book about Stoicism. I think it's called Stoicism, about being stoic, right? Years and years ago. And I have mixed feelings about it. I'm going to try to sum up a little bit about it with you all. And I'll try to find the book and put the link in the description. I haven't read it in many years, so I don't really even remember what it was called. But I'll know it if I see it. So this book was essentially encouraging us to reach a place of peace, but through the method of going ahead and going there in your mind to, I guess you might say, extremes with regards to visualizing bad things in your life, kind of like worst case scenario kind of thinking. And they would even, or in the book, it even described like thinking of, the end of your life and your death and things like that. And like, just, framing all of that, kind of like a go on to the end kind of thing, and then turn back and say, okay, now how do I want to live my life based on this over here, this ending, this outcome. And, it kind of didn't sit well with me when I read it, because it sort of, is a conflict against. It's like the polar opposite of what the Bible talks about. Think on the good things, the things that are lovely and good and honest and true and all this stuff, right? It's kind of like it was encouraging you to think about the bad things. But the whole point of it was, ultimately, this is my takeaway, that if you cultivate through this process, this this philosophy, a place of gratitude that is your core, then that serves you really well in life. To literally approach every day, every moment from this place of gratitude. And I get it. I understand that. And I appreciate everyone's efforts in trying to, throughout history, and trying to help one another, in life. But I just wanted to mention that, and that's for you to decide how you feel about that approach. but ultimately, I want to take the end result of that, which is cultivating gratitude, right? It's true that our mind really cannot function properly, and is therefore more vulnerable to manipulation when it's stressed out, and when you're not coming from a place of peace and gratitude. Your mind just doesn't work right when you're coming from a place of stress and anxiety and feeling pressured and being confused and all this stuff, right? So which is all related to psychological abuse. So conscious gratitude, I have found, seems to put my mind into a calm and restful state, which is interesting because the Bible says we're not supposed to go to sleep angry, right? Which you could just go off on a tangent here and just be encouraged or inspired rather to cultivate a peaceful place in your bedroom, so that it will foster calm and peace and even gratitude for the good things that you've experienced in your life, or that you have presently in your life. I've wondered if your state of mind when you go to sleep affects your dreams. Because you remember, our dreams are full of symbolism. And if your life is chaotic, but it doesn't register consciously that way, you may be having wild dreams, you may be feeling a lot of stress and discontentment in your life and just not understand why. So there are things we can do until the understanding comes that will help to regulate this anxiety and everything, like feng shui. Just an idea. So but if you think about it, it makes sense that if our mind is on the defense, it will respond differently than when it's calm. Okay? And I say that because it'll create mental blockages and do all kind of unconscious tricks. It'll become that trickster archetype, okay? And all unconsciously. This is all an unconscious process. But it does so to protect our sanity. It serves all of this stuff. These mechanisms serve to protect our sanity. But I would say at what cost? At what cost? Because it's keeping us separated from hard truths that we need to be able to take in and accept and work through to be able to move to the next level. You see how there's this good and bad at work here? There's this paradox at this process with regards to this process. I would say also, not only are these mechanisms, these blockages happening in our mind when we're under a lot of stress, right? We're not cultivating an attitude of gratitude and a place of peace every day. If we're just approaching life stressed out and we're unequipped, or we're not willing to put forth the effort or whatever to get out of this stressful state as much as possible, then if you're trying, that's good, that's honorable, and it may take a lot of trying. It's not like a one and done kind of thing. Let me just say that. But these mechanisms in our mind, they truly are simultaneously blocking our access to hard truths that we really need to progress, and they're also protecting our sanity. And I would say, when I said at what cost, I would say they're also protecting our ego, which is holding on like so tight, you know, and that's what needs to be worked and let go, right? Which we're going to talk about more in the next video. So, you know, we need to get to a place, and I think maturity plays a big part of this. We need to get to a place of being strong enough to accept hard truths, okay? And this is the same mechanism that's required, in my opinion, to break trauma bonds. But it means living out a mental state that's actually unguarded. I know that sounds totally counter to everything I've said before, but just go with me for a minute. It means living out a mental state that's actually unguarded, because the armor now is going to come from you already being rooted in something bigger than yourself, something more than your ego, which is fragile by design. It's coming from you now being rooted in a big enough truth that other stuff cannot affect it. Okay? It's like living out or experiencing standing mentally on this newfound, for real, rock solid ground. You see what I'm saying? So when you reach that place on your path that you are that sure of yourself, and yourself is like, not like egoic, you know, like you're this big somebody, and not like you're a nobody because you've totally detached and, you know, taken on this philosophy of complete detachment and living 24/7 in a meditative state or whatever. When I say, here's what I mean. When you're that sure of yourself, it's more like you're sure of your part in the greater whole. You are made aware of this greater someone, and then it's like you're made aware that you are a part of that. Them. Him. You're a part of it. And so, again, you can read about it till the cows come home, and that's one thing. But to experience it is something else, right? That is going to bring you peace. That will place you in a position of being relaxed enough to not be continually triggered by all of the obstacles that are placed on your path, right? By the darkness, you might say. It's going to prevent you from getting tripped up. Okay? Because what happens is when you're not ready, then your mind, this is I think from my experience what kind of creates anxiety sometimes is it almost feels like you don't have control over it. It's sort of like this defensiveness pops up automatically, and it is a mechanism in your psyche. You see, it is. It pops up to protect you because you're not ready yet. You're not strong enough yet, and it all comes down to God's timing. See, so but the problem is, you know, when these defense mechanisms happen, the result can be not good in our life. You know, the consequences that can come from that can be bad. So it's just important to try to always temper yourself and to just do what you can at every stage of the walk, every stage of the path, to stay humble and know that there's more to learn, and there's always more to learn, and to just be more reserved and careful with how you expend your energy and who you share your energy with and your pearls with and things like that. So I hope that you've been encouraged and inspired by the message today. The next video is going to be on, I plan for it anyway, to be on angels, because we're going to be talking about throughout the month of December the symbolism in different things that are related to the holidays. So I've got this book here, the Book of Symbols, Reflections on Archetypal Images, that I'm going to be reading from on angels, and I just hope that you are excited to tune in and listen to that message as well, because it's going to be related to what we talked about today, but just another another lens, you might say, to look through. So thanks again for coming along to hear the message. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.